Hey y'all, and welcome back to Famous Among the Barns. We are here in Balboa Park, and that is going to be our adventure today. I don't know too much about the history of this place. It was apparently set aside for public use in 1835, and then in 1870 was designated a city park. I'm not entirely certain what we're going to see here. It is massive, big cultural center. There are 16 museums here, tons of fascinating architecture. So we're just going to take a look around and see what we can find. So this is the Spreckles Organ and Pavilion. I'm going to come around here. This was dedicated in 1915, and I don't see it. I wonder if it's behind there. They said it's the largest outdoor organ in the world as of 2016. I don't know if that's changed. I'm guessing it is behind that grating right there. The architecture is absolutely amazing in this pavilion. So dedicated a little over 100 years ago. They hold concerts here regularly. All kinds of concerts. From what we were looking at, it doesn't appear that there is one tonight though. It's incredible to see this level of ornate detail set aside in art for public use.
I think this is sooner than a tree.
Pretty incredible. Just want to give you a close-up of some of this detail, which is really stunning. And look at that. It's a statue, and I am sorry to say I'm not entirely certain who it is. So we're gonna see if we can try to find that out. I love the Spanish architecture all through here.
It's El Cid.
Oh, it's a statue of El Cid. So that's pretty cool. Oh, there's Caitlin dancing, and Hayden is being accompanied on this journey.
July 1930.
By, who is that?
Groot. He is Groot.
El Cid was carved by Anna Hyatt, and looks like it was made dedicated July 5th of 1930. But yeah, I just love everywhere you look, as you would expect in San Diego. There's this Spanish architecture. See there, the Museum of Art, which I'm not going to stop in, but I want to give you a look at the statues that are up there. Alright, and we are on our way, I believe, to the Museum of Man right now, and we'll take a look around inside there. It's kind of an anthropological history, covers everything from like prehistory of man to ancient Egypt to modern displays of graffiti. I think they've even got a special display on cannibalism right now. So let's go see what we can see there. See this piece here near the Museum of Art is called Border Crossing. You see this dedication here. It says dedicated to my father. It looks like he crossed in 1922. It appears like this was made by looks like Luis Jimenez in 1989.
Have you ever done a Shakespeare?
See here, look at this tower here in Balboa Park. And there, this dome, which leads into this gorgeous courtyard. Fountain in the center. If you look over here, there's the Old Globe Theater.
I really want to go to Belgium.
Like a theater in the round, almost like the Rose that Shakespeare would have, or the Globe. The Globe, yeah.
I know that one of the things
The Globe. What was the Rose? What am I thinking of?
What's a
I'm
globe?
not certain. Shakespeare's theater was the Globe.
Yeah, you're right.
That's why they modeled it communally.
I love this. And you just look at the mosaic tiles on the dome. It's just stunning. So you see up there on the dome, there's an inscription in the mosaic in Latin, and so we decided to find out what it said, because we can't see all the way around.
It says, Terra frumenti horde ac venarum in qua ficus et malogranata et oliveta nascuntur terram ole ac melis, which means a land of wheat and barley and vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey, and it is a quotation from the Latin Vulgate of St. Jerome.
So the first thing we're seeing in the Museum of Man is an exhibit dedicated to cannibals, like her. You see it starts here with this, this Cannibals, Myth and Reality, and it's got all of these movie images, Silence of the Lambs, Fried Green Tomatoes.
That one doesn't count because that's zombies. They aren't humans.
Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I love that one. I watched that. But it doesn't make any sense.
Cannibal Holocaust, which is probably a high quality movie. So part of this exhibit is talking about the role that media, things like adventure books, have played in shaping our opinion and thoughts on cannibals, and it's got some classics here. H. Rider Haggard's King Solomon's Mines, Typee by Herman Melville, Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, and then multiple examples of multiple copies of Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe, which is really like one of the earliest adventure novels and did feature cannibals in it. You've even got a Robinson Crusoe storybook as retold for little ones. So what's interesting is in movies and fiction we tend to read a lot about like savage natives being the ones who are cannibals, but here are descriptions of the Crusader, Richard the Lionheart, being fed the head of one of his enemies. And here we've got King Charles II experimenting with corpse medicine, which was a special mix of skull powder. And here we have the Jamestown settlers also engaging in cannibalism. Whereas I think this is the image that we typically associate with it as like a tribal people. This is a picture of the Maori. You see here scholars debate how frequent it even was among them.
I helped open them.
Yes, you did. What is this over here?
For you, travel fears. College trip to someplace different. What were some of your fears? How did the trip turn out?
Ah. So people writing their fears of travel here. Since I think obviously fear of the unknown plays a large part in a lot of these myths that we have. This is interesting over here, I'm going to take a look at, because this looks like it's from the Pacific Northwest. And it is, this is a British Columbia people, it looks like. It looks very much like traditional Tlingit art, which is the tribe that I am part of. They are from Alaska. This is from Vancouver, British Columbia area. So if you see this here, Queen Isabella's edict, people were accused of being cannibals in the New World after Columbus came, and it had a political advantage for them to accuse them of being cannibals, because Queen Isabella then declared that if someone was deemed to be a cannibal, they could legally be enslaved. And so natives in the area were frequently called cannibals to justify enslaving them. And here we see, these are weapons from the English. So just to jump back to this real quick, it says here that the Hamatsa, or the man-eater dance, was the most important winter ceremony of the Kwakwaka. I probably said that wrong, I apologize. But dancers would wear these masks, which represented a man with a cannibal spirit, and the British colonial government actually banned the dance as a barbaric practice, even though there's no evidence that the dance ever involved actual cannibalism. It was banned by the government. You see this bust is of a young boy named Oda Benga, I'm sorry. And Oda Benga was purchased by an American missionary in the Congo because he was looking to display people at the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair. And then after the World's Fair, he was placed on exhibition in the monkey house at what is now the Bronx Zoo, was stuck in there with chimpanzees and other apes, and he stayed there despite great protest from African American clergy until he was finally released into the custody of an orphanage. And he ended up taking his own life in 1915. And the last thing he did before he did was he removed the caps that had been put over his ritually sharpened teeth to disguise them. Just some really heartbreaking things in this exhibit. And here we are in an exhibit representing an old apothecary where the corpse medicine mentioned earlier with the King of England, where it was described, and you would have things like powdered human flesh, human fat, skull moss, which was the fungus that grew on skulls left outdoors, which were all used medicinally, apparently. One of the interactive displays here allows you to find out what your prescription would be if you went to an apothecary by answering just a few questions here, and you can see that I was prescribed powdered human flesh, which I could take orally for diarrhea or mix with ointment for hemorrhoids. It does bear noting that this is not an actual prescription. What were you prescribed? Wait, it's blurry. Mummy dust, made from historical mummies or recently mummified corpses. Take orally as needed to reduce bruising and improve overall health. What did you get?
I got the same as you.
Okay, so you want to mix some powdered human flesh with your hemorrhoid cream?
No.
I didn't get any.
You didn't get any?
Nope.
Well, you don't have a job, so you wouldn't be able to answer some of those questions. What we're going to give you is some fresh blood. So you see here we've got descriptions of starvation and fatigue in places like Jamestown, the Jamestown settlement, but also the siege of, Leningrad Siege. You see here what Caitlin is lifting. You've got examples of what it would feel like to lift a bucket of water on a full diet, how heavy it would feel after 6 weeks on siege rations, and how heavy it would be on 10 weeks of siege rations, which I can just barely lift with one hand. Here you see these messages in bottles. People have written notes, which are hidden in the bottles, talking about what they would do if they were faced with the same choices as the Jamestown colonists, or a stranded, shipwrecked person, or someone in a siege, say like, or the Donner Party. Would you be able to make that kind of choice to stay alive? We're into the next part of the Museum of Man, and it's an exhibit all about monsters. This is an incredible entrance. And it takes us into this bedroom right off, and here we see like cultural artifacts and monster blankets. This is gonna be great. just gonna give you a quick walking tour of all this because it's pretty awesome. We've got, looks like protection against monsters in here. If you go, beware, do not look under the bed. If you look under there, there's some glowing eyes underneath the bed. A map of monsters around the world. And here, see the bed with the little monster stuffies. But you can also go here, press those buttons, and you'll get bedtime stories of monsters from around the world.
I want to see the monsters up there.
Here you've got the Monster Theater with all kinds of mythical creatures in it. Unicorns, and that looks like it's some sort of tree ogre. Oh, here's a description of what they are. That's a leshy. Oh, wow. Manticores, zombies. There's Godzilla. Let's see where we've got them all hidden here. This is very, very cool. Foo dogs. Quetzalcoatl.
That's over here.
There's the Thunderbird. Directions on how to defeat different types of monsters. This, there used to be a phoenix here, it looks like, but here we've got a Singa, Garuda, Naga. There's a narwhal tusk, which is not a mythical creature. That is a real creature. But it is sometimes called the unicorn of the ocean. Step back around here and look, we've got skulls of cave bears. It's like a cast of dinosaur bones. Descriptions, medieval depictions of dragons. A mastodon skull. A Japanese mask. So a very cool tour of monsters and mythical creatures from around the world. Merfolk. It's the Kraken here, destroying this ship. This is a very cool exhibit. What do we got over here? A dance mask from Bolivia. Well, let's see what else is here. By the way, if you've ever seen a Naga hide couch, this is a Naga, so it is apparently the hide of this. So you see, we also have this amazing display of Mayan I don't even know what you would call it, artifacts? And there's really so much history. I don't think that I can do it all justice trying to describe it all, so I just want you to get a look at it because it is stunning. The artwork was done on these stones. And look at this. Isn't it just incredible? And here you see some descriptions of Mayan culture. We're just going to move through very briefly here. Descriptions of the Mayan cosmos, Mayan deities, ritual objects and ceramics. Look at this. Here we have an exhibit on the history of living with pets. You can see how wide-ranging this museum is. Here it gets into
This is relatively accurate.
Oh, cats? What's it say? Or are you just saying it's accurate because it's sitting on top of the books?
Well, that, and also because cats only started to like humans when they had like
Food?
stuff for
Stuff.
them. Yeah.
About the domestication of dogs.
This is a Yu-Gi-Oh! Mini.
Here we see an example of a cricket cage, like you would have had in ancient China and Japan. And then
Beetles.
examples of beetles, both real and not real, and people keeping insects as pets.
We have a Lego beetle and a game console beetle, which isn't weird at all.
Oh, and there's a section on beetle wrestling in northern Thailand. Examples of different kinds of collars that people have given their dogs, from that to that. Here's a little bit of nightmare fuel, just in case you've been sleeping too well and needed to have a few bad dreams. And then it brings us into this section that appears to be about food, how we choose what goes on our plates and what doesn't. Here on some of the gardens is just beautiful. It does kind of look like a maze, doesn't it? A little bit. This is, it says the Alcazar Garden. And let's see if we can step over and see what a little bit of the history of it is. So the Alcazar Garden was originally designed for the 1915 Panama, California Exposition. They said that it was made originally in the formal Spanish style. Now, looking at some of the fountains and some of the tile work, I think it's interesting that there's some crossover between that Spanish style and what I sort of think of as like the Moorish influence too. Some of the Arabic or Islamic influence that you would have seen in places like Spain. And I think you can see it most distinctly in some of the things like this. Like if you see where this fountain is and these tiles here.
Oh, looks pretty.
And the tiles there have a very Islamic feel to them. The Islamic architecture, which focused mostly on geometric symbols and designs, because religious law did not allow for the creation of images of people. You had a lot of pattern designs and things like that, and my understanding is that the complexity of the designs was also supposed to speak to the complexity of God or Allah. We stepped into a sculpture garden here presented by the San Diego Museum of Art. Just wanted to stop at this piece because it's Alexander Calder, whose work I absolutely love. I think most people know Alexander Calder for his mobiles. This is just one of his sculptures here. Just a gorgeous piece. Here's a piece. This sculpture is right out front of the San Diego Museum of Art, and it was made by Miro, which, if you're familiar with his sculptures, is pretty obvious on sight that it's a Miro piece. It's funny, my kids and I have actually looked at his pieces like this and said that they actually kind of resemble Pokemon, which is fun. Here is the Botanical Garden building, which is closed, but the structure is pretty amazing. The way they've got it set up to allow in natural light when you're in there. You can see leading up to it is this beautiful reflecting pool. What I love is that this is all part of Balboa Park. I mean, it's just so much dedicated public space to art and beauty, and I think that's amazing. We've made it over into the desert gardens in Balboa Park, and this is the fattest tree I've ever seen in my life.
I think of slime rancher.
Oh, what do we got?
A fence lizard.
Where is it? Oh, there it is.
It's making me
lizard.
think of slime rancher.
Hello, little fence lizard.
Giant tree is making me think of slime rancher.
Look at this thing.
It's not even alive.
And it's like
it's hollowed out.
Cracking open there. There's something going on with this tree.
It's like something from slime rancher.
Sculptors Guild.
The shops aren't open, but we're taking a little stroll through the Spanish Village Art Center. You see, it looks like a few of the shops are still open. You see some artists out here. And it's an area for all of the artists to sell their wares. See, they're all in these buildings. Artists out here painting with stands set up. Some ice cream vendor there. This one is open too. So we do have a few areas still open. See, some of them are packing up, but every single one of these buildings loaded with people's art.
Oh, elephant tusk. See that? Maybe? Did you see it?
Little coffee place. It's a pretty cool little area. It reminds me of, we've gone to San Antonio a lot, and there's an area there called La Vallita, which reminds me a lot of this area. We are about to board this miniature train. I don't know what our destination is, but we are going to climb on. So we are
Tiny train.
on the Balboa Park train,
I have food in my mouth.
setting out, and I think that is going to wrap up the video for me today. It has been a great day exploring Balboa Park, but this seems like a perfect way to end. So here we go on the Balboa Park miniature train. Hope you enjoyed our adventure here. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe, hit the little bell button so that you can get notified of when we have future adventures. Oh, whoa, we just narrowly avoided some wild leopards.
They are wild.
And we will see you next time. Until I talk to you again, keep looking for stories. Oh my gosh, there's Julian. And a wild lion.